Previously, in Chapter 2 of Uncommon, Book 1 in the Chronicles of the Common series, Lucian woke from his experience in the White Room only to believe Eva was a dream he had conjured from imagination. And now, Chapter 3, Eva. A familiar crunch of metal echoed around me. I slammed forward and a strap bit into my chest again. Then, nothing. The fuck is happening now? I couldn't help but wonder what strange level of hell I needed to survive this time. Based on my new position, it was obvious I was no longer in the White Room lying on top of my sexy eye candy, which was a pity because we were just getting to the good part of hell. Then again, it wouldn't be hell if I got to experience a good part. As far as I could tell, I was back in my SUV, which was once again suspended. How? My confusion forced one eye to pry open. Not enough. I opened the other eye. Still not enough. What exactly was I seeing? My mangled little SUV was in fact suspended, but I had to be going insane. Yep, I'm still in hell, because this could not be real. I was indeed suspended, hanging inside a cave that was currently a war zone. This can't possibly be real. A blast of red light flew past, narrowly missing the side of my head and slamming into a wall behind me. Rock and debris ricocheted through the front of the car. Shit! Okay, maybe this is real. I quickly ducked below the dashboard. Shouts and blasts of weapons fire bounced off cave walls. Glancing to the back of my SUV, I discovered the rear of my car was swallowed by a rock wall. Well, that explains how I'm suspended. Unfortunately, my last glimpse of the view through the empty windshield, before a frickin' beam of light attempted to take off my head, had revealed the car was roughly 20 feet above the cave floor, a floor littered with smoldering white chairs, people shooting at each other, and dead bodies. Something about those bodies begged me to take a second look. Then another wild blast of light shot above my head, squelching the curiosity. The weapons fire suddenly stopped with a pained cry. Then silence. Well, that was an entrance, a male voice spoke, carried by the acoustics of the cave. And a damn fine distraction. I didn't think we'd win that bout. It's about time, Eva. I've been waiting for 5 days. 5 whole days. What took you so long? Asked a female voice from below. Eva? They know me? Well, at least this time I didn't have to play charades with my hellmates. But damn, I would much rather be lying on top of Mr. Hot and Sexy than ducking bullets of light. Who are you people, and which circle of hell are we in? I shouted, refusing to leave the safety of my dashboard. I'm Isadora, your guardian, the woman giggled. Not hell, but close. We're in Vatus Razana. You landed in our bunker. I'm sure you've already guessed that we're under attack. Why are you all the way up there? You really need to work on your portal landings, the woman said. You are not her guardian, the man quietly scolded. Now you're just being technical. Don't parade under my reign, the woman replied. That's not... It doesn't matter, the man groaned. Eva, we need to leave. More guardians are on the way. I would rather not be here when they arrive. Can you please come down? I peeked over the dashboard. Below the SUV stood a man and a woman. The woman had deep brown skin and appeared to be in her mid-20s. Her skin-tight gray bodysuit showcased a petite frame, suggesting she stood a few inches shorter than my solid 5 feet and 9 inches. Narrow brows over large brown eyes, a straight nose, and Cupid's bow lips were set into a beautiful heart-shaped face. Her delicate features were topped with a buoyant mass of natural curls, kinks, and waves, falling just past her shoulders. The woman exuded a mixture of bold strength and adorable whimsy. Hi, Eva, the lovely woman named Isadora waved from below. Did you pack for our adventure? If not, don't worry, I brought a bag for you just in case. The woman was obviously insane. I've had quite enough delusional people in my life and decided not to encourage her antics. I turned to inspect the man who stood several inches taller than the woman, dressed in jeans, a long-sleeved gray shirt, and a pair of black work boots. He was the 30-something epitome of the average boy next door. He had close-cropped light brown hair, slightly hooded eyes over a narrow nose, thin lips, and a well-trimmed mustache and beard. He was cute. More importantly, he appeared to be sane. Are you ignoring me? I've never been ignored before. How exciting! Ask her a question, Will. See if she ignores you too. Go on, ask her, the young woman persisted. She gave the man a shove and danced from foot to foot in delighted expectation. The man named Will cleared his throat and prepared to follow Isadora's orders. Your SUV looks pretty beaten up. Are you injured? He asked. The woman clapped her hands and bounced on her toes. Good question. I'm fine, I said cautiously. I was fine. The pains from my crash and the strange dream of the white room all seemed to have disappeared. Odd, but I wasn't in any condition to question the small mercy. Good. Will gave me a soft smile and holstered his gun. Do you think you're up for a jump? We don't have time to get climbing gear. He held out his hands in an imitation of catching me. You want me to jump 20 feet? I asked incredulously. Yes, quickly. I hear more guards headed this way, he responded. Sure enough, the sounds of running boots thundered toward the cave. The large 30-foot round cavern had 2 arched entrances on one side and a single entrance on the other. Unfortunately, the acoustics made it difficult to detect which direction the footfalls were coming from. This is insane. Reaching over the center console, I grabbed my messenger bag and dumped the contents of the glove box inside, then snatched my phone and charger, slipping them both into the bag. 4 gray shapes burst through the single arched entry on the right and took aim at Isadora and Will, who ducked behind chairs and immediately fired at the newcomers. I froze, arms in the air and the bag strap half over my head to stare at the spectacle below. Well, not exactly at the actual firefight, more at whom they were fighting. 4 tall creatures with long necks and limbs, pearl gray skin, and large expressionless black eyes fell to the floor one by one. A floor I now realized was crowded with the bodies of aliens? I screeched. What in the hell had I gotten myself into? You're fighting frickin' aliens? I am not going down there. No way, no how. Who the hell are you people? They're not aliens, they're Vatas, and I already told you I'm your guardian, Isadora replied with a roll of her eyes, then casually shot one of the aliens who had started to crawl across the floor. I know everything about you up until 5 days ago. Now, unless you want me to tell Will about your New Year's mishap with that bottle of cinnamon liqueur, you'll shimmy your little butt down from there. And honestly, Eva, what were you thinking? Liqueur, homemade fireworks, and a bowling ball do not mix well. But the creativity was pure genius. The woman gave me a thumbs up and a mad smile. Yep, I'm still in hell. If my jaw could have dropped any farther, it would have already landed next to the crazy little homicidal psychic. How she knew about my New Year's debacle of my early 20s, I had absolutely no idea. What the fuck? I shouted. Will dropped his head into his hands and groaned. Releasing a heavy breath, he turned pleading eyes up to me. We'll explain everything. Later. Now, for all that is holy in this universe, will you please jump? You have got to be kidding me. Frickin' aliens and psychics, I am definitely in hell, or I'm going insane. I grumbled and opened the slightly bent driver's door, then paused. Are you sure I'm not dead? Is this a survival test I need to pass in order to unlock the 7th circle? My car really did crash into the river and I'm in some weird kind of afterlife, right? You're not dead, but you will be if you don't jump, Will ended with a shout. His point was punctuated by weapons fire as the homicidal little woman shot yet another alien attempting to sneak past the pile of dead gray bodies. Holy crap! I raised a shaking hand to tuck a stray lock behind my ear. I have to be in the most insane coma dream ever. I kicked the car door in an attempt to keep it open. The hinges creaked and the door fell off my SUV. Will barely managed to scramble out of its path before it crashed to the polished ground. Whoops! Sorry, I shouted. Will kicked the door out of the way and the man actually held out his arms. Yeah, that so isn't going to work. I would either break a leg or break him. Standing in the now exposed driver's doorway, I turned and slowly crouched down to kneel on the running boards, then found a good hold on the seat and dropped to dangle fully exposed from the side of the car. Ready? I asked. Yes, let go, Will replied. I did. Will swiftly caught me around the waist, driving the air from my lungs. He placed my feet on the floor and released me. Taking a step back, he held out his hand. "Hi, I'm Will. Now we have to run." Before I was able to catch my breath, Will's outstretched hand clamped onto my left wrist while Isadora grabbed my right, and the two took off at a run, dragging me along with them. We darted through the second entry opposite the pile of dead aliens, to run down a long tunnel carved out of the same gray stone as the cave. My heavy winter boots were leaded weights at the end of shaking legs, slowing my stride as we thundered through the narrow tunnel. Will pulled us down a corridor and jerked my hand, forcing me to either pick up my pace or risk a dislocated shoulder. Half of my adrenaline-fogged mind begged me to run faster, while the other half screamed with denials that this couldn't possibly be real. The latter half won. Planting my heels, I pulled against my captor's hands, putting all of my weight behind the tug. Bodies collided, feet slipped, legs tangled, and arms flailed as the sudden shift in momentum twisted us into a three-body pile-up in the middle of the tunnel. "What the hell is going?" I began to shout when a small brown hand shot from the ball of body parts to clamp over my mouth. The surprisingly strong woman crawled up my contorted body, pinned between the ground and the pile of arms and legs on top of me. This wasn't exactly the position I had intended, but at least I had their attention. Isadora's pixie face and mass of wild curls hovered inches from my nose. "We don't have time to play people bowling, but that was really fun," she said with a huge grin. "Long story short, this is a rebel base and the evil guards who can't shoot for shit." Why does that sound familiar? A puzzled look crossed her face, then she quickly shook off the distraction. "Anyway, the short version is that the bad men invaded and are trying to kill us. I'm eagerly looking forward to watching your hysterics, but could you save it until we escape? I've already scheduled running away from bad guys right now. You're going to have to wait." "You do know you're insane, right?" I asked when she finally released my mouth. "Am not," the crazy woman defended, sticking out her full bottom lip in a childish pout. "Yes, you are." Will stood, having extracted himself from our pretzeled bodies, then looked at me in exasperation. "But she's right. Can you please wait until we're somewhere safe for your questions?" I eyed the two warily. They may be nuts, but I didn't get the impression they planned to kill me after risking their lives standing around trying to convince me to escape. Now that the adrenaline had started to abate, I realized they could have simply left me stranded in my car to defend against the aliens. I mentally rolled my eyes. But they hadn't. I had no idea where I was or even how I got here, but since it appeared I was still alive, assuming this wasn't another strange dream, logic demanded I do my best to stay that way. "Fine. After you tell me where we're going," I demanded. "To our shuttle bay," Will responded, helping me to my feet. "This way." "Oh, of course. That's perfectly logical. We're running away from aliens to escape by way of shuttle," I said with sarcasm. "Yep, let's go," Isadora chirped, grabbing my hand and leading me down the tunnel once again. We resumed our run, Will leading the way to the fictional shuttle bay. Beads of sweat dripped from my brow as we plowed through the dank tunnel, passing small alcoves and strong metal doors leading to unknown caves. A momentary breeze cut through the stagnant humidity, and I sighed with relief. We were nearing an exit. Shouts rang ahead, accompanied by the thrumming of heavy footfalls that sounded like a dozen men, but might only be two with the tunnel's amplified echo. My escorts slid to a stop and stared at each other, worry twisting their expressions. "I guess we're not taking a shuttle," Will said, then pulled us down a short hall to the left. He stopped in front of a large metal door and entered a code into a keypad. The door popped open with the light of a blazing sun filling the opening. I took a step back and shielded my eyes, only to have Isadora quickly snatch my hand and drag me through the door. Blinded by the sudden sun, I heard the slam of a door and Will telling his companion to drop the bags over the edge. "What edge?" I asked. "We're on a cliff. Don't move. Wait until your eyes adjust," Will said. He turned my body. "You're facing away from the star now. Focus on the rock wall." My fried eyes slowly adjusted to the new light. The air outside was crisp and clean with the subtle hint of sweet berries. The heat of the bright sun beat against my back and I began to cook in the heavy winter coat. I pulled off my bag, then the coat, returned the bag across my body, and started to tie the coat to the bag when Will suddenly grabbed it out of my hands and tossed my coat over the edge of the now visible cliff. "Hey, I can't afford to lose that," I complained. He turned me to once again face the side of the mountain and pointed to a ladder bolted to the rock. "We're climbing down. You don't need the extra bulk getting in the way." I peered over the edge of the small ledge carved into the cliff to find we were at least a dozen stories above the ground. "Come on, seriously?" "Yes," Will replied and squeezed past me to mount the ladder. "Those guards are going to eventually check that door. Let's not be here when they do." Without another word, he began to descend the ladder. "Hop it along, little monkey. Climb the ladder backward." Isadora gently pushed me toward the ladder. "That doesn't even make sense," I said. "If you're my guardian angel, that explains volumes about my life." "Don't be rude. I became your guardian only a few days ago. Had I been on the job, that whole Matt incident never would have happened. Oh, and I'm not an angel. I'm Hada, part Kedi and part Matri. Well, technically I'm Vatis, but let's ignore that part, shall we?" "Yep, she's a full suit short of a deck." I only understood half the words coming out of the woman's mouth. Crazy woman aside, I was definitely averse to being shot by alien guards. That was a concept I'd never anticipated debating. The most insane coma dream ever. First, I was stuck in a cell with a killer light, then pulled through a glass wall by a mountain of eye candy, and now I'm running away from aliens. What could possibly come next? Psycho clowns surfing on a tornado? I shivered. I hate clowns. I mounted the ladder and began the descent. After a few feet, I looked up to see Isadora mounting the ladder above. So far, no one had followed. We continued down the side of the mountain at a quick and steady pace, the sounds of our heavy breathing and steps on the metal rungs like a shouting beacon. "Eva," asked Isadora, breaking the silence. "Yeah?" "I think I'm having fun. Are you having fun? This is fun, right? Wow, we're really high up. You can see for miles." "No, this is not fun. This is crazy, and you people are going to get me killed, assuming I'm not already dead. Can you die in a coma dream?" I asked, refusing to turn my head and take in the view. I'm not necessarily afraid of heights, but I wasn't entirely sure I could focus on much more than merely climbing at the moment. When I get nervous, I tend to get a little klutzy, and now was not the time for klutzy. Knowing my own limits was becoming a new essential habit. Step, grab new rung, and repeat. That was the extent my shell-shocked mind could accomplish at this point. "You're not in a dream. This is real. I scribed a bird shifter once. It kind of felt like this, but better. A lot better. Will, are you having fun?" she shouted. "No, Isadora, I'm not having fun. In fact, I'm quite concerned we screwed up your cloning." "Cloning? She's a clone?" I asked. "That explains a lot," I mumbled. "Of course I am. I'm Vatis. All Vatis are clones. Can you go a little faster?" Isadora asked. "No, I can't go faster. Don't pressure me. I get enough of that from the voices in my head." "Oh, I like her. She's sassy. Eva, I've decided we're going to be best friends. There's a ceremony for that, right? The one with the fluffy white dresses?" she asked, bouncing on the ladder in excitement. "That's a wedding. There are no ceremonies for best friends," Will replied from below. "You can exchange bracelets." "Really? I'm sure you have that right. This feels like a ceremony type of occasion." "Oh, I know. Let's create a ceremony." Isadora wiggled her butt and stomped her feet on the ladder, sending vibrations through the metal. "This will be fun. What should our ceremony be?" "Can we plan friendship ceremonies later? Focus on the ladder and explain this whole cloning stuff," I demanded. The crazy clone was going to get herself killed. "I don't think that's a conversation for 50 feet above the ground," Will said. "Let's focus on getting down in one piece." I couldn't argue with that. "Agreed." "You two are no fun at all," Isadora pouted. We continued the rest of the descent in silence. Sweat poured down my back, forming rivers beneath my sweater. My palms began to slick, causing me to pause every few steps to wipe them on my pants. The climb down was cautiously slow, and my muscles began to ache from the unfamiliar strain. During my unfortunate sabbatical of widowhood, I had neglected to see the inside of a gym. It was obvious that was an error that needed to be rectified. A soft hum in the distance began to grow. "Shuttle!" Will shouted. "Faster!" Isadora demanded. I glanced below us and groaned at the 10 to 20 feet that still remained. We sped down the last few yards, then Isadora launched herself from above to land on the ground next to Will, and I pushed off the ladder to follow. Finally on the ground, I stared up at the towering mountain range we had descended. The rock was completely void of plants and trees. It stood like a rugged gray monolith against the sky. As I turned to survey the ground, my heart missed a beat, or possibly 2, 3 at most, which was perfectly understandable. Considering the sight before me, I had half expected the organ to stop altogether. "You're not in New York anymore," I marveled. Blankets of strange purple grain covered the ground in all directions. A dozen giant metallic contraptions rivaling the heights of a skyscraper dotted the landscape. They hovered above the fields with 2 gleaming bladed arms extended along the base to cut the grains, sweeping them up and into the central cylinder. The floating harvesters were so out of place they seemed to defy gravity and nature alike. There were no roads to divide the fields. No farmhouses kept watch over the grain. Not a single city nor forest nor solitary tree interrupted the expanse of purple plains. Unusual, to say the least, but it was the sky that was truly unearthly. At the edge of the horizon, a massive structure rose into the heavens beyond the planet's atmosphere and extending into space to pierce the side of a second planet that loomed above the land. At the edge of the horizon, a massive structure rose into the heavens beyond the planet's atmosphere and extended into space to pierce the side of a second planet that loomed above the land. The light gray structure connecting the 2 planets appeared to be a form of space station with windows, moving transports, and small ships entering and exiting at various points along its curved mass. The second planet was the exact opposite of the one on which we stood. City lights sparkled in circles, lines, and triangles, crisscrossing the entire surface of the globe. Beyond the planet was a single sun. My mind was having difficulty processing the truth in front of my eyes. The sight gave me the gut-wrenching instinct to run home and hide beneath the sheets. I wanted to believe this was a strange coma-induced dream, but the breeze across my face and unfamiliar berry scent wafting from the fields could not be denied. "We're not on Earth," I whispered. "Eva, come on, we have to run," Isadora shouted. After retrieving their bags, my crazy bookend escort snatched my arms and sprinted us to the edge of the field. They threw me to the ground between the tall purple grains, then landed on either side. I bounced back into a sitting position. "We're not on Earth." Isadora pulled me back to the ground. "No, we're not." I sat back up. "This doesn't look like hell. Where are we?" Will pulled me back down and held a hand over my mouth, then whispered in my ear. "We're on one of the triple planets of Vatus Rosana. There is a 3rd connected planet on the opposite horizon. You're not in hell. You're not in Area 51. You're not on Earth. But we're still in the Milky Way galaxy. You were not abducted by aliens, but they are going to kill us if you don't stay down, be quiet, and hide. Understood?" I nodded, but Will didn't remove his hand from my mouth, and I had the childish urge to lick his palm. A small gray oval ship flew overhead, parallel to the mountain, then turned away from the towering range. It appeared the ship intended to leave. Then it turned back toward the mountain and paused in flight. 4 bolts of red light shot from the front of the shuttle, exploding into the side of the mountain, exactly where our ledge had been. The impact was deafening. Boulders, rocks, and dirt rained down the side of the mountain, landing only yards from our feet. The ladder that had been anchored to the rock twisted and hung free from the side of the cliff. The shuttle continued to hover above the fields, surveying the scene. My heart raced and I held my breath, not daring to move. The silent craft fired 2 more blasts into the cliff, then slowly rose higher in the air. After making a casual turn, the ship finally sped away. For several minutes, the 3 of us didn't dare stir. Finally, Will removed his hand from my mouth and sat to stare at the mountain. A sniffle came from my other side, and I turned to find tears streaming down Isadora's face. "Do you think they got out?" she asked. "Most of them left before Eva arrived. I'm sure we were the last out," Will replied. He stood and dusted off his clothes. "That shuttle may have missed us, but this mountain range is still crawling with guards. Let's put some distance between us." I'm sorry about your cave. I stood and gestured to the still crumbling mountain. I don't mean to be insensitive, but could one of you please explain what's going on? Will smiled. Yes, I think you're overdue. Let's walk and talk. He secured one of the black bags to his back and began walking away from the mountain, through the tall purple fields of berries. Isadora handed the last black bag to me. I packed supplies for you. You really knew I was going to crash here? I asked. Well, I didn't think you would be crashing exactly, but yes, I knew you'd get here somehow, she answered with a soft smile, wiping the last of her tears away. Come on, let's go make Will explain things. I pulled the heavy duffel onto my back and adjusted my own messenger bag at my hip. We sprinted to catch up with Will, then the crazy woman skipped ahead and turned around to walk backward. So, Will, since you're the Earth Guardian, my bestie and I have agreed it should be your job to explain. The small woman smiled innocently. Me? It's my job to prevent this type of thing from happening. She's your mission. You explain. I think I'd prefer hearing it from you, if you don't mind, I told Will. Isadora stuck her tongue out at him. Fine, but let me get this out before you start with the questions and hysterics. He waited for my nod of agreement, then drew a deep breath and began. You were correct. You're not on Earth. We're still in the Milky Way galaxy, not far from Earth, in a system known as Vatis Rosana. I believe you fell through a portal that links Earth to Vatis Rosana. It's rare, but it does happen. Are you with me so far? Yep, not on Earth. I motioned to the skewered planet hovering above. Obviously, I fell through a wormhole into Vatis whatever its name is. I absently wondered if the white cell wasn't actually a dream, but instead was some sort of waiting room inside the portal, and Mr. Sexy Eyes and I were just two lost travelers who were spit out in different locations. I hoped my eye candy didn't find himself stuck on a strange planet with aliens chasing after him as well, although he did look quite capable of handling himself. Portal, not wormhole, Will corrected. Our people are called the Vatis, and we originally looked like the tall, gray aliens, for lack of a better word, that you saw in our bunker. The Vatis do not reproduce in our original form. We clone. Some of us, like Isadora and myself, have cloned into bodies that look like other known species, including humans. We do not abduct humans. In fact, our job is to protect Earth from the other species in the galaxy. How are you doing? Are you understanding all of this? Will paused. Gotcha. Not on Earth. System named Vatis whatever its name is. I fell through a portal. You're cloned aliens, but in human bodies. Your job is to protect Earth. And they were entirely wacko. You don't believe me, Will stated. Oh, I believe we're not on Earth. While I had to admit that the concept caused a bit of a brain spasm, I couldn't deny what was right in front of my face. And the white cell did have an otherworldly portal feel to it. Not that I would know what a portal should feel like. What I'm having trouble with is this whole Guardians of Earth crap. All the rumors say aliens, apparently that's you, abduct and... Don't even say it, Isadora interrupted. Probing is a cliché that's beneath you. Whatever, I rolled my eyes. Your people abduct humans, and if you two are also clones, then why are you fighting with the version 1.0 Grey clones inside that mountain? Are you the ones doing the abducting? Because I have to admit, I'm feeling a little abducted right now. A long, rubbery leaf from the purple stalks smacked me across the face. I stopped and sighed, staring at the couple warily. Will turned to face me, putting his hands on his hips in exasperation. You crashed into our secret bunker. Isadora insisted you were coming, and we waited for you. While guards invaded our home and killed our people, we waited for you. You were not abducted. I hated to admit that he had a point. This whole crazy experience had me completely off my logic game. Isadora stood in front of me, facing off with Will. They are not dead. Yes, they will be recloned and be different, but that's not dead. His eyes softened and he placed a palm on Isadora's shoulder. I'm sorry, you're right. He looked past her to me. We were fighting with them because we're a small group of rebels who oppose the way our government treats us. It has nothing to do with humans. You just happened to land in the middle of it." He jerked a thumb over his shoulder. "Come on, let's keep moving." Hours later, I was hot, sweaty, exhausted, achy, and not to mention well and truly bewildered. The Vatas, Isidore and Will's species, stood apart in both biology and purpose from the other 12 species that inhabited our sector of the Milky Way galaxy. Isolating themselves from the rest of the known worlds, the Vatas had 2 primary purposes: to record the history of the sector and to protect Earth. Will explained that upon creation of Earth's solar system, known to the rest of the galaxy as Prithia, it had been shielded as a protected system. No other species were permitted to visit, make themselves known to humans, or in any way interfere with the system of Prithia. As with any law, natural or man-made, inevitably some disobeyed. Prithia Guardians, aka Earth Guardians, functioned as a galactic police force. They were alien clones who looked like humans and hunted lawbreakers, removing them from Prithia. Isadora eagerly shared that the alien abduction stories originated from the various disgruntled species hoping to drive humans to fear the Prithia Guardians, making the extraction of interloping species more challenging. While the Guardians regularly visited Earth and interacted with humans, the same was not true for those who recorded history. The scribes, as Isadora called them, were expressly forbidden from any interaction with Earth. Their purpose was to experience and record the public and private histories of this sector of our galaxy, also known as the Common, with the one exception of humans. Each day, millions of Vatas scribes would arrive at work bright and early to lock themselves into a small cubicle, lie down, and meditate. While in a trance, the scribes psychically connected to another individual in the sector and observed the events occurring in the host's life. A scribe would experience the host's emotions, senses, and thoughts, while the host remained completely oblivious to the spying Vatas' presence. At the end of each session, they archived the data to the Vatas' historical records, only to repeat the process again the following day. A scribe's sole function was to act as a witness to the lives of others. Scientists, engineers, and government representatives who maintained their civilization made up the remainder of the Vatas population. As a species without reproductive abilities, their cloning capabilities were of top priority. The Vatas who existed in the system today were the same Vatas originally created millions of years ago. They did not age, and they did not die. However, years of existence did provide wear on the body and mind, prompting the Vatas to clone into a new form. Innovations in memory selection and eliminating emotion aided the scribe's mental longevity. The creation of new physical forms to resemble humans had allowed the Guardians to perform their duties without drawing unwanted attention. Unfortunately, only the Guardians and a select few were permitted to clone into non-Vatas form. The Vatas did not participate in sector politics, and they rarely traded with other species. They were known across the Common as the most extreme of isolationists, rigid to their purpose. The one constant with extreme ideologies is that they never failed to birth opposition. Inspired by the growing unification of the sector's Hada, hybrids and shunned species who were abandoned by their homeworlds, a handful of idealistic Vatas had quietly founded an underground rebellion. The small rebel group opposed the lifestyle the scribes were forced to endure. They wanted the freedom to live beyond merely their purpose and held the belief that all Vatas had the right to choose their clone form and seek reproduction. The inability to select her own clone form was an issue that particularly rankled Isadora. She had desperately wanted a body more closely resembling the other species, a request that had repeatedly been denied. Their little rebellion's subversive efforts were gaining momentum among the population. Unfortunately, they were also branded as shameful disruptors in the eyes of the unyielding hierarchy. The handful of rebels had been forced into hiding, but not before Isadora and the last of the gray alien rebels had broken into a cloning facility and selected a new form of their choosing. It was a damning measure that both hid their identities and enabled each of them on their individual missions, which I still was a little confused about. Isadora had taken the opportunity to not only change her appearance to one of a hada, but to also restore full emotions, neither of which had ever been done before. She had proudly stated that she was the only hada vatas with full emotions in existence. Unfortunately, the rebels were now well and truly criminals, forced to retreat to their secret underground base, the same base I had crashed into just this morning. We walked through the purple fields in single file while I absorbed their version of a very basic primer on the Vatas people. The tall purple stalks towered several feet overhead. Bulbs shaped like violet Brussels sprouts lined thick green trunks. Long, rubbery leaves fell from the crown of the plant, managing to always be at the perfect height to slap me across the face as I navigated the fields. When we first started walking, I had tried to focus on the story, attempting to push the leaves aside, but another would quickly follow in its wake, distracting me from the tale. I had finally resigned myself to staring at Will's feet and shielding my face with my ponytail. After hours of the walking assault, I officially lost my patience. "My brain is going to explode," I complained, rubbing my throbbing temples. On top of my exhaustion, the last thing I wanted was to add to the mountain of new information they shoveled into my brain. But I had questions. Lots of questions. "Can we rest for a bit?" "Sure," Will agreed. I gratefully discarded my load and dropped into a sitting position on the ground. Isadora joined me and retrieved a silver cylinder from the bag she had packed for me. "Water. I can't let my charge dehydrate. If you're hungry, there's fruit in there as well." I inspected the cylinder but couldn't find any cap to unscrew or lid to lift. I shook the silver tube, but nothing happened. Isadora giggled. She slid a finger over the top of the cylinder, and the silver metal at the end simply disappeared. "Thank you," I said, then took a deep gulp. "You keep mentioning the 12 species. Who are these other species?" Isadora raised her arm and waved her hand high in the air. "Oh, I want that one. Can I answer?" She looked at Will for approval. He chuckled and nodded, sitting across from us. "Aside from alien abduction, what other creature myths or legends exist on Earth? Name a few that have been around for a really long time," she requested. "Creatures?" I asked skeptically. "Yes, you can do it," Isadora encouraged with a nod. I wasn't exactly sure where the woman was going with this, but I decided to play along and took a moment to think. "Angels and demons?" "Very good. Keep going. Name a few more." "Vampires, fairies, werewolves, dragons, unicorns, leprechauns, zombies." "There's no such thing as zombies," Will flatly stated. I sat in silence for a moment. Zombies had been the only creature he specifically rejected. With realization, I jumped to my feet, stumbling backward and accidentally dropping my canister of water. "Are you telling me that vampires and werewolves are real and one of the 12 species?" "Technically, that's 2 of the 12 species," Will nodded in confirmation. Despite my shock, or maybe because of it, my legs shook, pleading for relief. I dropped back to the ground and returned to rubbing my temples. "This is insane. There's only so much nonsense a woman can handle in one day." Isadora wiggled closer. "Ready?" "No, just give me a minute," I requested, resting my aching head in my hands. "Nah, let's keep going," she insisted. "Matri are witches, Kedi are shifters and changelings. Raka are vampires, although technically vampires are Raka. There are 10 different types of Raka, and vampires are only one of them. The Fae are also known as Sishani. Don't ever call them fairies even. Never, ever. They don't like that name. Agnea are angels, and Naraki are demons. The Andrani have multiple races, such as Valkyrie and Sirens. The Kubari also have several races of dwarves and giants. There's an energy species known as the Pranya, and an amphibious species known as the Varuni. No one knows much about the Jevameru, except it's supposed to be the home of hundreds of different creatures, like dragons, griffins, and unicorns. I'm dying to go there. I was never able to describe to them. And then there are the Prithvi humans." The young woman finally closed her mouth and grinned. She looked as though she might actually be expecting applause. "You lost me at Kedi," I said. "There is no way I'm going to remember all of that." "That's why you have me," Isadora practically glowed with pride. "Yeah, about that. How do you know who I am? What makes you my guardian?" That's a silly question. It's because I'm special. Or maybe you're special. I haven't decided yet. Her mouth twisted and she shrugged a shoulder. Anyway, somehow I scribed all the way to Earth and connected to you, which has never been done before. So maybe I'm the special one. Whatever. Instead of seeing just the moment we shared, I saw your entire life. Let me tell you, it hurt like a stitch. Isadora gave a full body shiver at the memory. Bitch, I corrected. It hurt like a bitch. Ever since she scribed to you, Isadora has adopted very human characteristics. Now I know why. Will softly smiled at the woman, then looked to me. I did not want to analyze his comment. So, because you had a weird scribe session, you knew I would be falling through a portal and just show up on your cave ledge? That makes no sense. Everyone in the rebellion has a self-appointed mission. Mine is the Hada, she replied, as if that made any sense whatsoever. The hybrids you mentioned? What does that have to do with me? I asked. Yes, and I'm getting there. Be patient. On my last morning as a scribe, I knew we would be going into hiding, yet I still had no idea how to help the Hada. As you can imagine, I was very frustrated. Isadora paused and scrunched up her face in remembrance. That morning, I was so distracted, all I could think was that I needed help, fast. Then, bam! Your life hit me like a ton of bricks. I rather like that human analogy, very descriptive. Anyway, the vision included the word Hatavaya, which means home of the abandoned ones, so I knew you would be a part of my mission. Okay, fine. Let's say I believe you. What exactly is your mission? I asked. We're going to save the Hada, she said with a blinding smile, as if she had actually said something profound. We're going to save the Hada, I repeated skeptically. Yes, isn't it exciting? Isadora asked with a little bounce. How? That's a concept, Isadora, not a plan. Please tell me you have more details. I was starting to lose my patience. Nope. Well, all right, maybe a few. To be honest, I was kind of hoping you would arrive with a plan. Oh, do you have a plan? Is it a secret plan you've been keeping from me? That is not nice, Eva, Isadora scolded with a wagging finger. This was crazy. It was undeniable that I was no longer on Earth, but to have some sort of mission to save a bunch of hybrids was going a step too far. My heart was racing for the millionth time in the last 24 hours, and I was disappointed to realize I was beginning to panic. This would not do at all. So much for my poise while perishing. I turned to Will. I want to go home. You're an Earth Guardian. You can take me home, right? Will's jaw dropped. He sputtered a few incoherent sounds and then just shook his head frantically. That's not possible, Eva. I can't. Yes, you can. You will. I'm human, and it's your job to protect humans. So put on your big boy pants and take me home. I had absolutely no intentions of backing down on this matter. You don't understand, Eva. That's the problem. You're not human. He dropped the final bomb of unbelievable bombs with such speed my brain may have actually experienced whiplash in its wake. You're Hada, Isadora pushed to her knees and began to bounce in earnest. This is impossible. These people are nuts. I could deal with not being on Earth. Sort of. But not being human? Now I knew they were crazy. Of course I'm human. I don't go furry and I have no desire to drink blood. My parents were human. I'm from Earth. I am human. My panic began to rise in earnest. Eva, just breathe. Will took my fidgeting hands and gave me a reassuring smile. The Vatas have the ability to sense the different species. It's how Earth Guardians track the others in Prithia. You have human in you, yes. But you're not entirely human. Somewhere in your lineage, you have one or more ancestors that are other. I can't tell exactly what you are, but you still stand out like a beacon to one of my kind. Great. Other people get Vikings, Amazon warriors, and cool ninjas for their ancestors. I got supernatural aliens. Figures. You people expect me to believe aliens are protecting Earth from supernatural creatures, and oh, by the way, I'm one of those supernatural creatures. Then to make matters worse, you want me to go on some harebrained mission to save a bunch of hunted and persecuted hybrid supernatural creatures? You do realize how insane you sound, right? My panic morphed into exasperation. I know. Honestly, I'm surprised you've managed to stay calm for this long. But we're telling the truth, Will pleaded. I can't take you back to Earth. The portal must have triggered whatever non-human genes you possess. That's the only excuse I can come up with as to why none of my kind have found and eliminated you on Earth. I did one of those DNA tests through the mail, and nothing in it said I was a supernatural alien mutt, I said wryly. Wait, eliminate me? My voice rose with renewed hysterics. Yes, eliminate. He gave my hand a squeeze. Guardians do not transport the other species off Earth. We kill them. I can't let you go back to Earth. You're undeniably more than human now. Falling through the portal alone proves it. Humans are rarely able to travel portals. If you go back to Earth, someone like me will hunt and kill you. I'm sorry, but you're stuck here. Will's pinched brow and scrunched face spoke to the disturbance he felt by the idea of my death, which gave me some confidence he was telling the truth. I was stuck here. Stuck in this crazy universe filled with little gray men, all of the horrors that go bump in the night, and insane rebel clones. Maybe the portal had triggered something inside me. Maybe that's what happened when the bright light attacked me in the white room. I couldn't deny that something had happened in that room. The pain from the light had definitely felt like a genetic-altering experience. But could I really be a strange supernatural hybrid? The idea that I was a supernatural anything was oddly appealing and a little terrifying. It sounded as though this part of the universe wasn't exactly open-minded to interspecies offspring. Isadora had said that the hybrids were often shunned, discarded, hunted, and enslaved. The only thing that made this whole situation believable was that it was exactly like my bad luck to be screwed over in the supernatural genetic lottery. I snorted and looked to the skies. Perfect. I'm a monster mutt minority. This is totally not what I was asking for. I had been wanting to start a new life, but this was going to extremes. In all honesty, I didn't exactly specify where that life should be. Come to think of it, what did I really have back on Earth? A small mobile home and a crappy job. That's it. Truth be told, Earth hadn't exactly treated me with love and rainbows. I had no intention of returning to a crappy little life only to be eliminated by some alien who had a grudge against my newly activated other genes. As long as I was stuck in this whirlwind, why not save a bunch of hybrids? All right. I can't go back to Earth, and we obviously can't stay here, so what do we do? I asked, officially relinquishing my request to return home. Now you're talking. What do you say, bestie? Want to come with me to save the Hada? Isadora grinned. I gave the woman a hard stare. An adventure accompanied by a crazy little homicidal clone was a frightening concept. But what did I have to lose? Okay, what's the plan? Go save the Hada? Isadora squeaked her reply. I groaned. Subscribe to continue listening and discover if Eva and her crazy clone guide Isadora are able to escape the system of Vatus Rosanna. If you liked what you heard, the Uncommon ebook can be purchased at all major retailers for only 99 cents. Thank you for listening.